Hey friend, welcome back to Prophetic Breakthrough for Christian Women. I'm your host, Life Coach Amy Wadlington. On the last episode, we talked about writing down the vision, about spending time with God, listening, writing down what He shares with you. Habakkuk 2:2 tells us to write the vision and make it plain. But today we're talking about the next step, because vision without action eventually turns into frustration. So many people feel hopeful in January. They set goals, they make plans, and then by February 1st, most New Year's resolutions are already abandoned. Not because people are lazy, not because they don't care, but because no one ever showed them how to turn vision into something sustainable. So today we're getting very practical. So now that you have a vision, let's talk about how to set goals and actually stick to them. Do you want to step into the calling God gave you and dream big again with Him, but feel stuck, buried in doubt, and constantly pulled under by the chaos of everyday life? Hey, I'm Amy, Christian life coach, girl mom, and wilderness season survivor. I help women gain confidence in their calling through spirit-led coaching and prophetic insight, because that's what finally changed everything for me. If you're ready for the confidence to move forward so you can get unstuck, grab a pen and some paper, silence the what's for dinner mental loop, and pop in those earbuds. Let's go. Have you been thinking about booking a Your Next Step breakthrough coaching call with me? Here's what you will get inside. A full 60-minute one-on-one session with me where we cut through the confusion and uncover what's really keeping you stuck. Personalized clarity around what matters most right now so that you can stop circling the same mountain over and over again. A simple custom action plan with one next step that you can take immediately to move forward with confidence and peace. And a recording that you can go back to anytime that you need to reset or as a reminder of what God is asking you to focus on. This is for you if you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and finally step into clarity, confidence, and breakthrough. No fluff, no overwhelm, just the clarity you've been praying for. Book your own Your Next Step breakthrough coaching call today at amywadlington.com/coaching. Now, before we talk about intentions, before we talk about goals, habits, or timelines, there's something that has to happen first. And this is the part that most people skip. If you want to move forward intentionally, you first have to take an honest look about where you are right now. Before you build a plan for where you're going, you have to pause long enough to ask, where am I actually starting from? Not where you wish you were, not where you think you should be, but where you truly are in this season of your life. Because goals built on denial don't last, and goals built on shame don't stick either. This is about truth with grace. Lamentations 3:40 says, "Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord." Taking inventory isn't about beating yourself up. It's about awareness. So here are a few honest questions that you can sit with. What worked for me in the past year? What didn't work, no matter how hard I tried? Where am I exhausted? What am I avoiding? What keeps getting pushed to later? What season am I actually in right now? And this is important. You don't answer these questions to judge yourself. You answer them so that you can stop asking your future self to live in denial. Psalm 139 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting." That's the posture here. Honesty before God. Because you can't steward the next season if you won't tell the truth about the last one. It's just like if you put in a GPS of wanting to go to a destination, first you have to tell your GPS where you are right now. Otherwise, the directions that you get aren't going to make any sense. So you have to figure out where you are, take a full evaluation, and be very careful not to slip into toxic positivity. Faith does not mean pretending everything is fine. Faith means telling the truth and trusting God anyway, no matter what. If you're exhausted, say that. If you're overwhelmed, name it. If you've been in survival mode for years, acknowledge it. God already knows. Nothing that you say to him will surprise him. But when you're honest about where you are, you stop setting goals that fight against your capacity. And that's when things start to change. And this is exactly why intentions come before goals. Because once you're honest about where you are, you can ask a better question. Given my real life, my real energy, and the real season that I'm in right now, how do I want to live? That's where intention begins. And from there, we can build goals that actually fit in your life instead of constantly fighting against it. Now, before we jump into strategies and systems, I want to ground us for just a moment, because Scripture gives us both vision and wisdom. Habakkuk 2:2 says to write the vision, but Proverbs 21:5 tells us that the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. So today is about diligence, not striving, not hustling, but building something that fits your real life no matter what season you're in. So why don't most people stick with their goals? Here's what usually happens. We set goals based on motivation. Motivation feels amazing until it doesn't. And when motivation fades, we're left with goals that feel too big, too vague, or too overwhelming. And then we call it self-sabotage. When it comes to New Year's resolutions, most people quit by February, some by January 5th. They have good intentions, they feel motivated and ready, and then life happens. Goals fail when they're disconnected from daily life or not planned well around your real life, or they're all or nothing, or they're based on who we wish we were instead of where we actually are in this season today. Jesus talks about this in Luke 14 when he says that we need to count the cost before we build. Counting the cost doesn't mean shrinking the dream, it means building a bridge to it. This is where we need to talk about intentions, because intentions come before goals, and they come before New Year's resolutions or setting new habits. You have to have an intention first. An intention answers the question, who do I want to be and how do I want to live? A goal answers the question, what am I building and how will I get there and how will we get it done? Intentions are the big idea, like a painting or a vision without a true destination. They can change and they can fluctuate, just as we change and fluctuate. Goals are the blueprint. They are the step-by-step directions that are going to get you to your destination. Let's say that you're going on vacation to a destination you've never been. You have an idea of what it might look like, how you want to feel when you're there, and how you want to spend your time while you're there. That's an intention. The goals would be the details that would make it all happen. How you will get there. Are you going to fly or are you going to drive? Where will you stay? An Airbnb, a hotel, in family's house, in a cabin, in a tent? What will you eat? Are you going to go out to eat? Are you going to cook at your Airbnb? Are you going to have hot dogs or are you going to have steak and lobster every night? What activities are you going to do? Without planning all of those out, the idea in your head or the intention of what the vision is will never come to pass. But budgeting, planning, and walking out your plans will get you to the vision that you desire and the intention that you have. Let me give you a real life example. An intention might be, I want to have energy to live a full, fun, long life with my children and my grandchildren. That intention matters because it gives context to everything else. Now, under that intention, you might have goals like lose weight or build strength so that I can lift my future grandchildren without hurting my back. Or I want to sleep more for overall health and rest. I need to drink more water so that I can stay hydrated and healthy. I want to move my body more so that I can build balance, strength, and overall health. And I want to read my Bible consistently so that God can lead me step by step, day by day, and I can have a real strong relationship with Him. But when you look at all of that at once, it feels really overwhelming. So instead of trying to change everything all at once, you choose one or two habits that support that intention. And once you have those habits down, you add one or two more. This is where the 1% rule becomes your best friend. By improving 1% doesn't mean massive change. It means small, consistent, sustainable progress. If your goal is to sleep 8 hours a night, you don't jump in there overnight. You might start by going to bed 10 or 15 minutes earlier every night, and then another 10 or 15 minutes once that feels normal. And you keep going until you reach your goal of 8 hours a night. That's 1%. If your goal is better health, add 1 glass of water per day. Do 25 squats while your tea is brewing. Walk for 10 minutes 3 times a day, 4 days a week. Small, consistent changes applied. Zechariah 4:10 reminds us not to despise small beginnings. Now let's make it even easier. Let's talk about habit stacking. Habit stacking means attaching a new habit to something that you already do. For example, while your coffee or tea brews in the morning, do squats or stretch. When you sit down with your morning drink, read 1 verse, pray, and journal 1 page. After brushing your teeth, review your daily tasks or your word of the year. We'll talk more on that later. Or while walking, pray and listen to scripture. You're not adding more to your day, you're building on what's already there. This removes resistance, which often is one of the biggest reasons that we quit. Change and new feels really hard, especially if you've been living in high, constant stress for years. Your mind and your body are going to resist change because change doesn't feel safe, and your mind and your body's job is to keep you alive. Nothing more, nothing less. This is where your word of the year comes in. A word of the year helps you stay focused. No pressure, not perfection, just focused. Your word might be health, abundance, courageous, capacity, abide, grow, rest, build, or be still. Your word becomes a filter. It comes from the vision that God gave you. And if you need help with that, go back and listen to the previous episode. What's the big picture theme of the vision, and what will help you get there in the next 12 months? Once you have your word, and as you begin thinking about your intention and your goals, before you do anything or add anything more to your plate, you ask, does this align with the vision and my word? Does this habit support the life I'm intending to live? I've used words like peace, joy, and freedom, and those words didn't make my life any easier, and they didn't help me really accomplish any goals, but they did make decisions clearer because I filtered everything that I did through them. If I wanted to do something new, I would ask, does this bring peace or joy or freedom in my life? And if it didn't, then the answer was no. It was very clear, and it helped me make decisions quickly, and it helped me filter out the noise. Now, once you have an intention and a word for your year, this is where goals start to get specific. Let's talk about timelines. Some goals are short-term, some are long-term. For example, if your long-term goal is, in 5 years, I want to be fully self-employed, that doesn't happen all at once. Ask me how I know. So you break it down. In 12 months, I need to launch an online course. In 6 months, I want to grow my podcast. In 12 weeks, I want to be sure that I'm recording at least 1 episode per week consistently. You might set KPIs, or key performance indicators, for those of you who aren't familiar with KPIs. They might look like 1 podcast episode per week, guest on 1 podcast episode per week on someone else's podcast, offer a workshop or a boot camp 4 times this year, network and meet new people consistently, post on social media 3 times per week. See how KPIs are little tasks that you can do that are going to keep you on the right path so that you can hit your goals, so that you can live the intended life, so that you can fulfill the vision that God gave you. See how it all starts coming together? Goals should be very specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. You can call them SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Your intention is fluid, but goals are not. They're very specific. So let's go back of the intention. I want to have energy to live a full, long life, having fun with my children and my grandchildren. What is a 5-year goal that could help you get there? What about 12 months? What about 12 weeks or 1 month and weekly? Each goal should be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Which of these sound better or more like something solid that will help you not only know what you want, but how you're going to get there? The first example is, my goal is to get healthy. Or, in 5 years, my goal is to lose 100 pounds so that I have more strength and energy. In 1 year, I will lose 30 pounds, and in 12 weeks, I will lose 10 pounds, and in 1 month, I will add the habits of drinking 64 ounces of water every day and sleeping 30 minutes more per night. After the first month, you can evaluate where you are and then add 1 or 2 more habits, like eating 30 grams of fiber daily or 100 grams of protein. Do you see how these smaller habits and goals can help lead you to your bigger goals, which in turn will help you live out your intention and the vision that God gave you? Proverbs 16:9 tells us that we plan our way and that God establishes our steps. Planning is biblical. And let me say this clearly. It isn't about asking God to bless your plans. It's about building with Him, praying, reading scripture, listening for God's directions, and living with expectancy, expecting that God will fulfill His promises and fulfill the vision that He gave you. And you want to speak life into it. God cares about the details of your life. When we invite Him into the process, we experience peace instead of pressure. Now, many of you are in what I would call a crossing over season. But even when the Israelites crossed into the promised land, they still had to contend for the land, and they were still required to plant and wait and harvest. The promise didn't remove responsibility. It gives it purpose. So you want to remember that even if you are crossing over from a wilderness season into the promised land, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden life is going to get easier. And yes, you are in the land of milk and honey, but even when the Israelites were in the land of milk and honey, they still had to fight. They still had to contend. God told them the very first thing to do was to remember where they were. They had to set up the rocks and build a monument, remembering where they came from. And it was 12 rocks so that they remembered the 12 tribes. And then they were told to go in and to circumcise all of the men and the boys because they had been in the wilderness for 40 years. And so they were circumcised. And in the New Testament, it talks about the circumcision of the heart. So we aren't physically circumcising ourselves. We are spiritually circumcising ourselves. And then in Joshua, God tells them to stay in their camp and rest until they are healed. So even if you are crossing over from the wilderness into the promised land, that means that you have to circumcise your heart, which means giving it all to God, renewing your mind, letting God transform your mind, taking out the sin and evaluating where you are, doing all of the things that we have continuously talked about, and then staying in your camp until you are healed. And that was when God started giving Joshua the plans to contend for the land and to fight for the land. God went before them, and every single time that they obeyed and did exactly what God told them to do, they were able to take that much more of the land. So it was a step-by-step process, and that is where you are crossing over to in this new season. I can see it prophetically. I just see a vision of each of you stepping over into your promised land. But first you have to figure out where you are and where you came from, just like we talked about at the beginning. Maybe even creating your own monument. That monument might look like writing out a journal entry. It might be painting a picture or actually using rocks like the Israelites did. And then go and ask God to circumcise your heart, removing sin, forgiving those that you need to forgive, taking full evaluation of where you came from and where you are, and then stay put until you are healed. And that might mean time of inner healing, some deliverance, working with a coach, whatever it is that you have to do so that you are ready to step into the promise that God has for you. And then listen for God's instructions and take the land, contend for it and fight for it. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one simple action step, not 10, nothing overwhelming. This week, I want you to choose one of these two things. Number one, write down your intention, and that could be like a 5-year intention, a 1-year intention, 10 years down the road, maybe by the time you retire, something like that. Just a big vision of what your intention is. What is the life that you want to live? And then the second choice is choose your word for the year and write it down. That's it. This week, that's all that I want you to do. And then I want you to start praying about it and start making plans once it feels right in your spirit. I would love to hear what you choose, whether it's your intention or word for the year. What you can do is you can come share it inside my free community, which is at amywadlington.com/community if you're not already in there, where we are going to walk this out together. And you don't have to do this all alone. We are there for you to support you, and I would love for you to join the community. So now that you've written down the vision, it's time to run with it. Small steps, clear intention, consistency, and God-led focus. When you know what to do next, everything changes. Now, I know that you don't need a complicated process to move forward in your life, and you don't need to fix everything all at once or have the entire roadmap figured out. What you need is clarity, peace, and the confidence to take one next step. And that's exactly what happens inside your Next Step Breakthrough Coaching. And I can help you with this if you need help. In just one session, we can identify what's been keeping you stuck and uncover the simple next step or your word for the year or your intention, whatever you need help with, and we will help you to move forward. Let's take the pressure off and make breakthrough simple. Book your call today with me at amywadlington.com/coaching. Until next time. That's it for today, friend. I pray that this episode blessed you or stretched you in all the right ways. If it did, would you please take 30 seconds to share it with another mom who's trying to figure out what God is calling her to do next, or who just needs to hear that she's not too late or behind. All right, go clean off that pile of laundry from the treadmill or the chair or whatever piece of furniture it's currently living on, and I'll see you back here soon for another episode. Bye for now.